In you, O Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your righteousness deliver me and rescue me. Incline your ear to me and save me. Be to me a rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. Rescue me, O my God, from the hand of the wicked, from the grasp of the unjust and cruel. For you, O Lord, are my hope, my trust, O Lord, from my youth. Upon you I have leaned from my birth. It was you who took me from my mother's womb. My praise is continually of you. I have been like a portent to many, but you are my strong refuge. My mouth is filled with your praise and with your glory all day long. Do not cast me off in the time of old age. Do not forsake me when my strength is spent. For my enemies speak concerning me, and those who watch for my life consult together. They say, "Pursue and seize that person whom God has forsaken, for there is no one to deliver." O God, do not be far from me. O my God, make haste to help me. Let my accusers be put to shame and consumed. Let those who seek to hurt me be covered with scorn and disgrace. But I will hope continually and will praise you yet more and more. Greetings, beloved friends. Welcome to this, our second devotional of Holy Week. I'm Pastor Jerry, and I want to welcome each and every one of you. Friends, once again, as we begin this week, I want to thank and acknowledge the contributions of Discipleship Ministries, and in particular, the Reverend Dr. Derek Weber, for providing the source material of our devotionals this week. As I thought about the devotion this week, I recalled a book I once read some time ago. It's simply entitled The Kite Runner. The Kite Runner is the first novel by Afghan-American author Khalid Hosseini, published in 2003. It tells the story of Amir, a young boy from the Wazir Akbar Khan district of Kabul, and of his closest friend Hassan. The story is set against a backdrop of tumultuous, chaotic events from the fall of Afghanistan's monarchy through the Soviet military intervention, the exodus of refugees to Pakistan and the United States, and finally the rise of a brutal Taliban regime. Themes of guilt and redemption feature prominently in the novel. Then there is a pivotal scene depicting the act of sexual assault that happens against Hassan, while Amir fails to prevent it. The situation as a whole was the main reason why Amir and Hassan's friendship ended. In the latter half of the book, we center upon Amir, who has escaped some 2 decades later to the United States and has built a fruitful and wonderful life for himself. In an attempt to atone for the transgressions of his youth, he returns to Afghanistan many years later and attempts to rescue Hassan's son, Sarab. While attempting to adopt the boy, he runs into all kinds of problems. The journey is not an easy one for Sarab or Amir. After Hassan's death, Sarab has ended up in a series of orphanages and then finally in the hands of the Taliban. As a result, Sarab's life has left him emotionally scarred, afraid, and deeply broken. The adoption officials even tell Amir and his wife that adopting Sarab will be next to impossible, since the young boy's parents can't even be proven to be dead. But Amir and his wife eventually figure out a way to adopt Sarab and get him back to the United States. But before they can set everything in motion, the young boy tries to kill himself. He lives, but he stops speaking entirely. Even after they successfully bring Sarab to California, he remains broken and very withdrawn. In a very pungent quote from the book, Amir says, "I brought Hassan's son from Afghanistan to America, lifting him from the certainty of turmoil and dropping him into a turmoil of uncertainty." You know, as I think about the scene that day in the temple, that day when Jesus strode in, I think things must have been just simply chaotic. Lots of anger and shouting as cages of sacrificial animals broke open on the stones and temple coins rang and rolled into every crevice of the stone floor. In the Gospels, it would seem that this is the act that breaks the back of the opposition. They're simply not going to take it anymore. It's at that point that the plot to get rid of Jesus shifts into high gear. This man, Jesus, he's a problem. And that problem is going to be a very real threat. It's going to result in some very real and severe punishment. It's going to end up with a very deep level of suffering. You know, when we, like the psalmist that we heard earlier, talk about refuge in God, we tend to think of it as a place of safety, of calm and quiet. And certainly, friends, that is something to be sought after and treasured when it comes. But that is not the promise. We aren't promised an easy life. We aren't promised material success or sufficiency of goods. Instead, we are promised simply the presence of a loving Creator. But the journey may be a difficult one. You know, this week I took some time to listen to a wonderful gospel song entitled, "I Want Jesus to Walk With Me." The lyrics begin by saying, "I want Jesus to walk with me. I want Jesus to walk with me. All along my pilgrim journey, I want Jesus to walk with me." It is a spiritual that speaks profoundly about a journey, knowing that it isn't about comfort and ease. Subsequent verses in the tune say, "When the shades of life are falling, and when my heart is aching, and when my life becomes a burden." This isn't a hymn to a comfortable life, a life of safety and refuge. It's an acknowledgement of the struggle and the narrow way to which Christ calls all of us. You know, the disciples must have panicked. They must have panicked when Jesus decided to go to the temple on that fateful day. And I imagine their panic rose as they watched what happened as he cleansed the temple of the greed and oppression that had been allowed to take root and fester in that holy and sacred place. There must be easier ways, they thought. Must be easier ways to stage a revolution, to turn the world right side up, surely. But there aren't. Not really. I think that's what we want. We want to find an easy way. But if we choose to walk with Jesus, then we might find ourselves turning over tables, upsetting the comfortable sin that we've gotten used to in our lives or ignored in our culture. We might find ourselves declaring, for example, that all creation is God's house and that we ought to stop treating it like a den of thieves and like a trash heap. Maybe we might find ourselves declaring that all God's children, and I mean all God's children, are worthy of the necessities of life. Maybe we'll find ourselves proclaiming that the God in whom we take refuge indeed calls us to provide refuge for those that have been cast aside. Beloved, Temple Tuesday is a reminder that walking with Jesus isn't always a stroll in the garden. Sometimes it's dangerous. Sometimes it is a very strenuous road. This Holy Week, as we're preparing for the depths and heights of the journey with Jesus, from the table to the garden, from the lash to the cross, from the tomb to the glorious resurrection into life and light, let me invite you to join with me and all of us who simply sing, during that journey, I want Jesus to walk with me. All along this pilgrim journey, I want Jesus to walk with me. Blessings upon you, friends. We'll see you next time.